Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. So today we're going to be exploring Distress Spritz. I am so excited for the new colors that were recently released. So we're going to see how Spritz fits in with our holiday card making. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. So today we're going to be playing with some Distress Spritz. Now, as you know, there's been a new release of Spritz, so of course we've got some lovely new colors to play with. These include Tattered Rose, Lumberjack Plaid, Crackling Campfire, Squeezed Lemonade, Rustic Wilderness, Bundled Sage, Salvaged Patina, Faded Jeans, Broken China, Villainous Potion, Frayed Burlap, and Hickory Smoke. So we've got another lovely 12 Distress Spritz to play with. Perfect timing for the holiday season. I love the color palette here, and I'm very, very excited for Squeezed Lemonade, Villainous Potion, and Hickory Smoke was an absolutely delightful surprise given how shiny it is. So today we're going to be playing with some basic techniques for Spritz, and we'll be focusing on some holiday color combos. So let's clear the deck and start. So just moving Spritz off to the sides. So we're going to be working with some color combos, and we're going to be mixing and matching with some 3D embossing pieces. So we've got some ornate here, and we've got kaleidoscope, and then I've got some plain distressed watercolor cardstock. So let's start first with the swirly ornate pattern. Now for this one, I'm going for a blue and silver look. Let's see here. We're going to be doing some hickory smoke, some tumbled glass. Ooh, I would love to do a little bit of chipped sapphire in there, and then I want something a little bit lighter. How about some salty ocean? So that will give us a good variety for our first background. And you know what? I want a little bit of tumbled glass distress oxide, because why not? We can add something that's a little bit more pastel. That will hopefully balance out the chipped sapphire, which will have to go pretty light on. It is a very powerful color. Okay, there we go. So first things first, we're going to grab the Distress sprayer, and we're going to give our background a good spray. Okay, and I like to start with my lightest color first and then build up. So that would be the tumbled glass. And we'll just spray. Now let's go for the salty ocean. Ooh, that's a little stronger than I thought. Okay, now a dash of chipped sapphire. I'm going to try to keep this light. There we go. And I'm going to move this around just a little bit with some water. Try to get this to flow. Okay, it's not quite flowing the way I want it to yet, so I'm just going to go into my fingers and move some of that color around. There we go. Next, we will add a dash of tumbled glass oxide. Ooh, that's very pretty. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and dry this off, and we're going to be doing a bit more of a drip drop technique. We are going to be adding some water droplets with the Distress sprayer as we dry this off. So let's go ahead and put this on fast forward as we dry this out and add some water drops. Now that our background is all dry, I decided that I wanted to highlight some of the texture with some Distress Crayon Picket Fence. Then we'll get into more Spritz. So I'm just going to scribble this over the top. I just wanted to bring out the texture just to make it a little bit more noticeable. It's a really, really pretty texture. Okay. There we go. Ooh. That is working out very well. All right, now for the fun part. Now it's time to Spritz. So here we have some hickory smoke, and we're going to give it a really good shake. Make sure that everything is nicely incorporated. Looks pretty good. So now we're going to do a slow squeeze and get all sorts of splatters onto our background. So just a slow squeeze on the trigger, trying not to do too much. I wasn't trying to blast it, but that's kind of what just happened. But okay, so let's go ahead, dry that off, and then we'll take a closer look at how the Spritz really does shine. You can kind of see it right now, but this tends to be more dramatic once the background is dry. Here is our dried background, and check out all of that shimmer. Absolutely gorgeous and icy. So this is just one of the ways that we can use Spritz. Now let's do one more background just for fun. And we're going to be pulling in another set of colors. This time we're going to be going for some red and green. So let's switch up our color scheme. Now for red, obviously, that's going to go really, really well with some gold or kind of copper. And I'm thinking frayed burlap would be the right one to include, maybe along with a dash of lumberjack plaid. So those will be the two colors of Spritz that we're pulling in. And for our foundational colors, let's see here. Definitely want some rustic wilderness. What else would go well with that? You know what? I feel like going kind of, yeah, because then that will show up more. All right, so we'll use this and that. And I also want to throw in a dash of mica spray stain. But for that, I think I want something kind of neutral. I think maybe unraveled would be perfect, or decayed. A couple of choices. So I'm going to grab a mica spray stain at the same time. Okay, so I've also got decayed. Now, just like before, we're going to start off with some water. There we go. And now we'll add in our green. And I'm going to be very careful with the red. I've got festive berries this time. Don't want to overwhelm the green, and I don't want to make sludge, so just doing little itty bitty squeezes, trying to get everything to play nice. Now just a little bit of water to get the colors moving. Okay, so far so good. Everything seems to be playing nice. All right. Now to bring it all together, I do want to bring in the decayed. So we're going to have to get this a really good shake. Okay. And just add a little bit here and there. Okay, pretty good. Now I do want just a touch more green. Hopefully this isn't going to look as muddy once we start drying things off, but we shall see. Okay, let's go ahead and put this on fast forward as we start to dry this up and see what we've got. Here is our background, and check out the little bit of added shimmer we got from the Distress Mica Spray Stain. Okay, now it's time to go in with some Spritz. And change my mind, we're not going to use the frayed burlap. We're definitely going to be using some of the Rustic Wilderness instead. That is just going to add a bit more variety to our background. So I'm giving these two Spritz a really good shake. Okay, need to shake just a little bit more. And good. So let's start with the green first. I'm going to do a slow squeeze and just try to get a little bit on here. All right, perfect. And now for a dash of the lumberjack plaid. There we go. That looks really good. Okay, a little bit more there. All right. So let's just hold that up for a moment. Ooh, the rustic wilderness is really, really pretty. I love that over the decayed mica spray stain. Very cool. All right, I'm going to give this a quick dry and we'll take a look at the finished result. All right. Ooh, so much shine. Love it. Spritz is absolutely magical and I love how it adds the beautiful shimmer to cards. Okay, so we'll set that background aside. Now we're going to check out another technique that I saw during one of the many Tim Holtz demos. This is the dip and swipe. So we're going to be using a combination of kind of a minty color. So we're going to go for some cracked pistachio and some salvaged patina. Where's that hiding? Salvaged patina. And then we're going to add some Spritz to it. So the plan is that we're just going to dip right in and then we'll be able to get a very interesting type of background. You know what? Let's throw in some peacock feathers at the same time. Why not? So this time we're spraying directly onto the craft mat and I do have the Tonic Studio large craft mat over the top of the glass mat. Love it. It is great for playing with spray stains. Okay, and lots of salvaged. And now a dash of peacock. So I'm kind of going for like a minty green. And for these Spritz, I do have some salvaged patina in here. Let's go for that. Okay, that's good. And we're just going to spray that direct. Now, I'm kind of thinking I would also like a dash of blue in here, so let's add some broken china too. Okay, and give that a spray. Now, let's go ahead and swipe. I may end up doing a tag as well at the same time if I've got some leftover. So I've got a tag off to the side waiting. Now, I'm going to, let's go this side, smooth side up. Spray my distressed watercolor cardstock, spray my work surface just a little bit, and we're just going to dip. Swipe. Ooh, that already looks great. Okay, so I'm going to dry this off, and then we're going to be doing a little bit of dip and dry. But wait a minute. You know what? I want to swipe the tag through at the same time. Why not? And this time I just did a dry swipe. That's pretty too. Okay, let's go ahead and dry these off and we'll be right back for a bit of dip and dry play. So we have still got quite a bit of ink on here. So we're going to be dipping and drying. These are our foundations. So let's go ahead and start to add some layers. Let's go ahead and put this part in fast forward as we dip, dry, and sprinkle water to get more texture on these backgrounds. Let's take a look at these finished backgrounds and look at all the layers we were able to build up with Spritz and Distress Spray Stain. Now, the Spritz is definitely more subtle in here, but if you tilt this, you can see that kind of pixie dust like magic on here, and it adds a whole new dimension to backgrounds. Absolutely love that. Very wintry, very magical. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll set those backgrounds aside, and now we're going to be looking at some stenciling. Next, we're going to be working with distress spritz and stencils. So we've got some distressed watercolor cardstock, and we have one of the new stencils. This is THS 189. So we're just going to put that right down on here. And I kind of have an idea to try to do a bit of a resist and a monoprint. So we're just going to be experimenting with this. Okay, so we've got our stencil. Now I'm going to be spraying with, of all things, frayed burlap. Now I kind of want to try to get a golden color with the holly, and then I want to do the background in a lovely green. Now to do that, I'm going to be pulling in Distress Spritz frayed burlap and a little bit of fossilized amber. So we're going to set those right there. And first things first, we're going to spray with spray stain, and then we'll spritz over the top. Now, since we're doing that, I can definitely get a monoprint as well. So let's see what happens. I'm starting with my layer of frayed burlap. Okay, so we got that. Now we'll give our spritz a really good shake. And I'll start with the fossilized amber. And now a little bit of the frayed burlap. Okay, so let's see what happens. We're going to lift carefully and see what we have initially. Okay, ooh, very nice. All right, I'm going to move this off to the side. And we'll do a quick wipe of our surface. I just need to grab my towel. And we're going to be bringing in a tag. All right, button that down. Now, on the stencil, you can see that we've got a lot of overspray, and I'm just going to wipe away some of the parts that we're not going to need. Just like the top and the side. I'm going to try to keep this as neat as possible. Good. And over here. Okay. And this side. Great. So let's take our tag. And this, we'll place it down and we'll see what we get. I am very curious. Okay, now I'm just going to put this over the top. You could use a paper towel, but this is handy, and I'm just going to press. There we go. Let's see what we get. So carefully, we're just going to lift. Ooh, very cool. All right, I'm going to give everything a quick try, and we will be right back.
Here are the two completed backgrounds using the same stencil. The first is where we sprayed through the stencil, and the second is the monoprint. And check out all of that gorgeous shine from the Distress Spritz. That is too cool. I love that we can get 2 in 1 with the stenciling technique. So fun. But with the first piece of paper, I want to take this background a little bit further. So we're going to be going over the top and attempting to use microglaze so I can add a colorful background and not have those beautiful holly leaves and berries run. I don't know if microglaze is going to work with Distress Spritz, so we're going to try it and just see what happens. My biggest worry is that the microglaze might rub off or somehow alter all of that beautiful sparkle. But only one way to find out. We need to simply dive in and see what's going to happen. So we're going to take some microglaze, and we're going to be using one of the tiny Holtz dabbers to apply it. And I'm just going to tape down my stencil so nothing runs away on us. I also put down a layer of grip mat to help keep everything in place. So once we're all taped, we'll bring in the microglaze and the tiny blending tool and start adding. Now, for adding the microglaze, I want to carefully go over the top, and I'm going to be working in small circles with the blending tool. So the microglaze, in theory, is going to be acting as a resist. And when we add another layer of wet medium over the top, the part that is microglazed should be well protected. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to scoop up some microglaze, and we're going to carefully start putting this through the stencil. Now, we need to definitely make sure the stencil doesn't move. That's why we've taped and used the grip mat, but I'll also be using my hand to stabilize things just to make sure that nothing wanders off on me. So we're going to be using some small circular motions as we apply the microglaze through the stencil. And I'm just going to kind of work from the bottom up. And we'll just try to be as thorough as we can. If we miss a spot, well, we'll know the second water hits this. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Need just a little bit more, and I think we're going to be all set. Let's finish up that corner, and I think we are done. Now to carefully lift the stencil up, and then the real test. We add some water, and if something starts to spread, then we know we missed a small corner. All right, the shine's still there. This is seeming pretty good, so we'll just have to hold our breath and bust out the distress sprayer. Okay, well, this is lined up, so let's spray. And for colors, we're going to be using some Lucky Clover, but I do want to put down some water first. All right, and here we go. Okay, not bad. So I noticed a little bit of color moving, but for the most part, it looks good. And what I'm seeing now is some water beading, which is great. That means the microglaze is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So now we just need to start drying this off. And I think I'll go in with a cloth first and just kind of gently dab some of the larger puddles. So looks like things are pretty good, but the only way to really tell is to completely dry this background off, and then we'll have a really good idea of how well it worked. Okay, and quick cleanup on the mat. There we go. Oh, so far so good. Let's dry this off. And here is the dried background, and it looks like it worked pretty well. The spritz is intact, and we've got our lovely layer of green, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of moneyness or blending. Now, the main reason I'd want to use the microglaze technique here is if you used a spray that was a really dark color or a really light color and you wanted it to stay the same, you would need that layer of protection before you do the second layer. Like if we did a really light color, like say a tumbled glass color through the stencil and then wanted to add another color over the top, then you'd probably lose your first color, and that would be a good reason to protect with microglaze. Or if you were using two very contrasting colors that could potentially turn to mud. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to our next thing, and we're going to be building a card from the ground up. We are bringing back our 3D embossed ornate background, and we're going to be pulling in the Tim Holtz Sizzix die set Colorize Trim a Tree. I love this one, and I pre-built this off to the side with some scrap pieces of paper earlier on. So now we're just going to put a card together. Trim a Tree is so versatile, and you can actually change the size of the tree depending on the size of your card. We're also going to be pulling in a Holiday Classic. That's another good one because I wanted the sentiment. So let's bring in our elements and start building. So first things first, we are going to want the tree because that is going to become the centerpiece of our card. Now, for the pieces, I die cut these out of scraps, and I decorated with some shiny Ideology holiday droplets. Then on the top, I used some metallic craft stock for the star. So on the back, we're just going to be going in with some foam squares to give this a bit of lift. So we're just going to add these on, and then I'll need to take the backings off before we can stick this right down onto the card. I love using foam squares, and I particularly love that foam squares come in several different thicknesses depending on how your card is being created. So it's nice to have different levels of foam. This time I'm going to be using about the 1/8 of an inch pieces of foam to prop up the tree. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll stick our card here and we'll add the tree to it. Just lining things up, making sure everything is centered. There we go. Ooh, I love the tree and I love decorating it. That is probably the funnest part of this die for me. Okay. So there we go. We've got our tree. We've got some lovely green layers. And now we're going to need to add a sentiment. So again, I love the tree. Metallic craft stock is fantastic. And the holiday droplets come in so many colors. There's also a second set that comes in metallic colors. But for the tree, I thought the colorful droplets really looked like ornaments. All right. Now for the border, I wanted to do some washi tape, and I've got this really cool washi tape, and it kind of looks like a mini countdown calendar. If you don't look too closely and ignore that it has 30 and up in a few places, it really looks good because some of the numbers are like in red and some of them are in blue. So we're going to just take our ATG tape and we're going to use that to help us tack down the washi tape. Particularly on textured backgrounds, I like to give the washi tape a little bit of extra help sticking because sometimes the spray has a little bit of residue and then the tape doesn't stick as well, and the texture makes it a little harder too. So ATG tape for the win. Love using that to adhere extra things. There we go. Tucking those tape ends around the back and moving on to the next side. So again, just rolling that tape right down, and then we'll add on more of that wonderful washi tape. And again, the washi tape is from Ideology. And for a while, there was this really cool pack that was like mostly skinny tapes. So that's where I got this one from. And I try to use these as much as I can. I really like having a border on cards. It just, for me, centers things and gives the main focal point a bit of an anchor. So just keep working around and soon we'll have the entire border completed. Okay, and here is the last section of border. So we'll just tuck those tape edges and this part is now done. And that border definitely holds everything together very nicely. So next we're going to be going in with our sentiment, and I decided to use the sentiment Noel. So we're just going to put some little drops of glue on the back, and that should be plenty to stick this down onto the card. Again, we're going to be using some metallic craft stock for the die cut. I love the shine of the Ideology craft stock. It's very pretty. And, of course, we had to match the star on the tree. So we're just placing that down. This is the top left corner, and we're going sideways today. Now I'm just going to hold that with my hand and hold that for a few seconds to let the glue have a chance to stick, and then we're good. Next, we're going to be finishing off this card with some droplets in the corner using some of the larger gold droplets. I love to finish cards off like this, and I definitely have a fairly decent stash of droplets because I put these on almost everything. It's definitely one of my favorite embellishments to use. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll just pick out our droplets. And since we already put the glue in the four corners, we can just drop these down and we are good to go. So just going to move these in place, and that should complete our card. I'm very happy with the way this is turning out. The tree, to me, is the absolute star of the card, and then having those accents of metallic just bring everything together. All right, there we go. And that completes the card. So here's the completed card. We've used a combination of From the Vault dies paired with Sizzix Colorize Trim a Tree. Definitely one of my holiday favorites. And the background we created while we were playing with lots of distress Spritz. Now, finishing touches. We need a little bit of pixie dust here. So I'm going to be bringing in a dash of squeezed lemonade, and we're going to just sprinkle that over the top for the finishing touch. And there we go. We've now got a little bit of shimmer. And here it is all dried. And it's very subtle, but you can definitely see we've got some of that magical shimmer on the tree and card. A great way to integrate Spritz. So here is our completed card for today. Now, today wasn't just about card making. Today, we've also been playing with Distress Spritz and making a whole bunch of backgrounds. For our backgrounds, we've been focusing on lots of different holiday color combinations, such as this one using the 3D folder Kaleidoscope, where we were able to pair red and green and some matching Spritz colors for a very festive backdrop. And we also were able to do a dip and swipe technique for a very beautiful minty green with lots of inky layers. We also played around with some stenciling and microglaze, and we were able to get 2 prints out of 1. And here they are. This one we layered up with microglaze to get 2 colors, and this is our beautiful mono print. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for fun with Distress Spritz and making a holiday card. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video with Distress Spritz. And until next time, happy crafting!